back to the SDG Media Zone here at UN headquarters in New York during the UN General Assembly. Our next panel is about to start on gender balance and women's empowerment. I'll hand it over to the moderator, Janelle Dumalaon.
Thank you, Martin. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this panel on the future of gender equality. My name is Janelle Dumalaon, US correspondent for Germany's international broadcaster Deutsche Welle. I have the pleasure of being joined by our panelists today, beginning with Trine Bramsen. Hello, Trine. She's a Danish politician of the Social Democrats. She served as Minister of Transport and Minister of Gender Equality from February to December 2022, and Minister of Defense from 2019 until February 2022. Welcome.
Good to be here.
Then we have Lysa John. Lysa is Secretary General of CIVICUS. That's a global alliance of civil society organizations and activists dedicated to strengthening citizen action and civil society throughout the world. She lives in South Africa. She's championed human rights and international mobilization for 2 decades. Welcome to you too, Lysa.
Thank you, and great to be part of this power-packed panel.
Power-packed is a good description. We'll take it. Finally, we have Marina Ponti. Marina is the Global Director of the UN SDG Action Campaign. She previously served as one of the main architects of the UN Millennium Campaign and as a special advisor on post-2015 during the final negotiations of the 2030 Agenda, alongside her roles at the UNICEF and UN Secretariat and Catapult. That's a girls' and women's rights crowdfunding platform, a real expert today that we have here. Thank you very much for being here, Marina.
Thank you.
And Marina, we would like to begin with you immediately. And I want to touch on the role of creativity and inspiration in driving gender equality. You head up the UN SDG campaign, as we said, and I want to talk a bit about this digital art exhibition you have at the Sustainable Summit NYC. So the artworks, they cover sustainable food systems, climate action, peace, and gender equality. Tell us a little bit about how the artwork helps push the need to move achieving SDG 5 forward.
So thank you for the question. And it's such a great pleasure to be here and unveil the gender equality digital art piece, which is done by a Venezuelan artist, Alejandra Herr, and the title is A Reality to TBD. So I would say let's watch it together, and then I can talk more. So we have seen very simple object. We have seen a chair, we have seen a woman, we have seen a man. We have also seen movement, a very dynamic movement, which is a sign of challenging the status quo. We have also seen lighting. Lighting shows a hidden reality, which is unfortunately pretty much the case when we talk about violence against girls and women. But then the art piece ends with a very positive image, with a scale, which is the universal symbol of justice, and let me add, of gender equality. So now you're asking me why we use art at the UN SDG Action Campaign. It's very simple, because art connects with our emotion. Arts allow us to imagine a new reality, and art inspires us to keep with the resilience, with the focus to achieve it. We believe at the SDG Action Campaign that what we can imagine, we can achieve. So it's very important to have a positive outcome, to visualize a different world, to then find the strength to achieve it together. So let's today visualize and imagine a world where actually women and girls are given the possibility to contribute to their society, where there's no more violence or discrimination, and where the care economy is fully recognized and valued, and where every woman has the possibility to really contribute to the success of the well-being of their community and societies.
Thank you very much for that answer. So I did what you said, and I visualized, and instantly I felt like I had more money. Turning to you, Lysa John. Now, let's keep up with this theme of creativity and mobilization and elevating civil society voices. So, as Marina mentioned, we have these hard, sobering facts about the struggles women face. Women human rights defenders, for example, face violence, stigmatization, repression, even in a modern age such as ours. But this digital age has brought with us both opportunities and challenges with respect to this. How can we leverage technology and social media to amplify voices and raise awareness and empower women and marginalized genders?
So I'll start by saying that the pandemic, actually, the one thing that it made very evident was the power of feminist leadership. So not just in terms of heads of states and governments, but also on the streets, in communities and families, we saw that, the ability to actually represent what women bring to leadership, which is the kind of innate need to listen to diverse voices, to build consensus, to take people along, to really promote and protect diversity. That is something now the world cannot do without. So in every sphere of our lives, the development and in fact the survival of societies now depends on our ability to actually embrace and fully represent those kind of principles. So what we've seen, on the other hand, is that more and more countries have, however, become closed. So there is less ability actually now for public participation, for public dialogue on issues of importance. And that's pushing many activists, including women and young girls, into the sphere of online activism and the use of creative strategies to actually engage and talk about their issues. So even in contexts like Afghanistan, for instance, you've seen art being used to talk about the restriction of women's rights. We've seen that in Iran. We've seen that in Myanmar. So I think what's incredibly powerful is that the more governments or people who hold power, including businesses, become regressive and repressive, the more the instinct to find new ways of expressing ourselves and find new ways of expressing our rights. So it's almost like the need for social justice, the need for to talk about human rights, the need to just feel equal is so deeply embedded in our DNA as human beings that there is no force in the world that can take that away, and women really represent that action and that energy in terms of protecting who we are and who we need to be as human societies.
In the end, this does have a lot to do with the recognition of our own humanity, of course, as you say. But I would like to pick up on something you said earlier about strong feminist leadership, because I think this would be then a good time to turn to you, Trine. So as a member, of course, of Denmark's parliament, as a member of the Gender Committee, you've been a spokeswoman on gender equality. How do you see individuals, communities, and institutions working together to address the systemic barriers that hinder gender equality?
Well, I love art, I love new technology, but I think it's mostly about structures. And I think that if we really want to change the culture, we have to change the structures. And the structures are all over. They live in companies and in the political systems, in media, sport, and so on. And if we want to change the culture, we need decisions, political-made decisions that we want to change the structures. And that decisions has to be made in the top, and then we can make a lot of other things, but it has to begin in the top. So our prime ministers, presidents, top leaders, they have to decide that they want a change. Otherwise, I don't think we can change the culture. I'm sorry to say. We tried a lot in Denmark, and I think we were one of the first countries in the world to have gender equality. We started, we really moved on in the 70s, also in the political systems, but we are not there yet. And if we're going to move forward, we need to change the structures. We have believed that culture can change itself, and that we can push the culture if we talk about cultures, but I don't think we can make it without strong political decisions.
Yes, in fact, I remember reading somewhere that when it comes to heads of state who are female, that very often their tenure comes after a failed leadership action from a male president or a male prime minister, or that it's something inherited. But here is a question for you all, going back to our running theme here today. In what ways can we leverage creativity to challenge and change traditional gender roles and stereotypes that persist in various aspects of society, such as media, education, and the workplace? Starting with you, Marina.
So thank you, and also to linking to what you said, of course, policy are critical, and also change in the private sector, in business model. But talking to many, women activists in many countries, sometimes I ask, what's the biggest barrier to, developing your initiative or to go to the next level? And I hear over and over, it's culture. Because in my community, there is the narrative that women cannot do it. So although, we need the policy, we need the heads of state president, there is a lot we can do through art, music, rap, to change the stereotype, to visualize a different narrative and a different image in society of women. Women that can achieve, can thrive, and somehow the culture can help, portraying that image.
Lysa, John, same question to you.
Thank you. So I think for me, the recognition that art is an expression of anguish, it's an expression of anger often, and it's also the ability to kind of resolve seemingly unreconcilable differences, both in your personal and your political life, right? And I think that's really the use and the power that we see of activism, if you'd call that. In relation to women's leadership, I think we have an example right here at the UN Security Council resolution on women, peace and security, which was adopted in the year 2000, continues to be the milestone for how women's leadership is actually protected, integrated, and promoted in all spheres of policy making. And I think we have a lot to learn from that in terms of saying that women at the table, women's leadership is absolutely essential, but you also need to create the pathway to that leadership. So you're not just going to have somebody jump across hurdles in some magical way and land at the table, right? You need to start from scratch in terms of from the minute women step into the workplace or they're born in the world or they step into school. How are you creating those consecutive, ladders that allow movement and progress? And particularly in the online, domain, I think we all know that the maximum online harassment and backlash is against women citizens and women activists. So there's an absolute need for large social media businesses to be held accountable. They cannot turn away and say, it's just not our business and not our responsibility. Women are getting attacked online. And we should actually collectively hold them accountable, create the kind of regulations that enable us to ensure that women are safe no matter where they are.
So inroads have to be created for women to succeed, and at the same time, we have to take pains to protect them, us. Trine, you've mentioned earlier you like tech, you like art, but you believe that the structures are most important. But I do want to ask you the same question that I asked Marina and Lysa about leveraging creativity to challenge these gender stereotypes and these gender roles that have perhaps trapped us in the past years.
Well, I think what what I'm worried for is that it becomes an excuse for making the necessary decision at the political level. If we say it's, we can make culture campaigns or so on. But I really agree when it comes to harassment and social medias, we have a lot of things to do. Because one question is to get women elected and to get women into the most important offices. But another thing is when the women has gone into the offices, how is the treatment of women? Do they really get the power in the position they have? And when I was defense minister, and I say defense minister as a woman, there's not many in the world, and it's really a hard job. There was a meeting with my 7 male colleagues, and I think I was the first female minister, defense minister in that group, and they held a meeting in a sauna. And they were just, it's a sauna meeting, and I was, I'm not going in there without clothes. And they were, well, it's just a sauna meeting. And that's also about structures, but it's not the structures holding women out from the positions. It's the structures when women has got the position. And I don't think they were not bad people. I don't think they were thinking about it. And therefore it's so important that it might be a good idea to use culture in and art in that perspective to open these men's eyes of what are they doing, and how does it feel to be the one standing outside the sauna.
No, Trine, I don't want to focus on the wrong thing here, but I do have to ask, what happened then? Did everyone agree to put on their clothes and go into a conference room?
No, I said I had a meeting, a very important meeting, online meeting.
Yeah. I see. So did they just go on without you?
Yeah. They held the meeting.
Well, this is the other half, of course, of the discussion. What is the role of men in empowering women? And I think you just provided us with a very good example about how that bears thinking about. But I would like, we have a few minutes left. We are talking about this as a sustainable development goal to be achieved until 2030. Perhaps we can go around and say, when do you think gender equality will actually be achieved? Marina, I know you probably have to say 2030 as the head of the UN SDG Action Campaign.
So we want, I think there were many events during the weekend where people and activists were saying, when should we achieve justice? And the answer was now. So I would say 2030 is too far away. We cannot really talk about the future when half of the population of this world is not given the possibility to contribute to the society. So equality now.
2023. Lysa.
So I'd say when we are able to actually accept that gender is a social construct and embrace the idea of non-binary, orientations and identities, I think the obsession with identifying with one particular gender also traps us, because then we're also, kind of mirroring the same kind of repression and regression towards groups that don't identify either as male and female. So I think we just need to move beyond that and understand when people attack women, when people attack, LGBT plus groups or groups that identify as non-binary, that's the first warning of an authoritarian society. Women are always the first target of any government or system that actually wants to repress populations and take away all of our rights. So we do need to stand up together and defend the idea that we can be multiple identities, we can be very diverse in how we our orientation. But as long as we're accepting of ourselves and we celebrate our diversity, we have a world that will prosper.
That means then that it cannot be reached until 2030, until those conditions that you have mentioned have been achieved.
Luckily, there are many communities that are already embracing this, so I think change is actually coming from the bottom, and it won't be too long until we're forced to acknowledge that even in places like the UN headquarters.
Thank you. Trine. What year?
Well, change the structures now, and if you don't change the structures when it comes to gender equality, you won't change the world.
All right, so this is a very open-ended end to this discussion, but I enjoyed it very much and learned a lot. Thank you very much for being here with us today, Trine Bramsen of the Danish Parliament, Lysa John of CIVICUS, and Marina Ponti of the UN SDG Action Campaign. Thank you very much for your thoughts today.